Of course, as usual, I mentioned time. There's only 1,440 minutes in a day. No matter what our belief system, we're not going to get even 1 minute more added to our life. So we want to use our time wisely. And so with that, I hope all of you are doing well within your space and time. And if you are not, we have a multitude of resources on the Metacenter website that can help with that. All right, so. Okay, everyone. All right, so we're getting into it here. So on today, we're going to be talking about the universal laws. And we're going to be getting into it in such a way that it can be utilized for all of you all's lives in some form or fashion, hopefully for the better. We're going to be getting into, I'm trying to close the screen here, but we're going to get into not only the positive aspects of how it can be used, but maybe an example or two also of how negative entities would utilize it to disrupt our lives or to cause problems in some form that we, of course, do not want. So let's see here. I'm going to just stop this share real quick. I just want to make sure on my end, my mouse is acting a little strange for a moment here. Okay, so first and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for attending this class. We're going to dive deep into the universal laws and how they play out within our lives. We will cover the history and more, but most importantly, I will be giving you examples on how we can utilize these universal laws to acquire and sustain a more balanced existence, while also detailing to you how they can be utilized by those who do not have good intentions. These laws, seen and unseen, form the framework that governs our existence and the universe itself. We'll be exploring how these laws impact our daily lives, shape our destiny, and how we can harness this power to create harmony and prosperity in our lives. This is the true meaning of knowing how to manifest. Of course, on many podcasts in the past, we've talked about manifesting, right? And even though many of the concepts you're going to hear today, we talked about them many times, but it's been put in a just a more stable framework so that everyone can easily grasp it and people can, do better. So let's see here. And now, before we even get deeper into this, I hope you do have your beverage of choice. My beverage today, I have some black tea from the website, themetacenter.chicago.com, black tea with bergamot. And I'm not sure if you can even see me on the screen right now, but I have Colloidal Gold here, but also Colloidal Combo, which has gold, silver, and copper in it. So I like to dose myself with that. And I also have some gold powder. If you can see it here, like I said, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but if you want me to show you later, I'll show you later if you cannot see me. So, all right. Now, my black tea with bergamot has a few different herbs in it from the website, which includes tulsi, which is excellent for the brain and also for psychic abilities, okay, amongst many other things. Also, I have parsley and I have nettle in this tea. So it's an excellent mixture. Creates a really nice synergy, especially when I have to do a lot of talking like today. So, all right. So first, let's get into a brief history of the universal laws. The concept of universal laws is as ancient as human civilization itself. The early Greeks had a term logos, which they viewed as the rational principle governing the cosmos in the East. The Vedic and Buddhist traditions conceived of dharma, a cosmic law underlying existence. In the Renaissance period, philosophers like Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes contributed to an understanding of natural laws governing physical phenomena. This scientific revolution that followed gave us Newton's laws of motion and universal gravitation. Fast forward to the 20th century, we are told that Einstein's theory of relativity further refined our understanding of these laws governing the physical realm. On a metaphysical level, the New Thought movement or New Age movement and quantum physics have opened up a new dimension of understanding of these laws. All right, one moment, everyone here. Okay. The importance of understanding these laws in everyday life. Understanding and aligning with the universal laws can significantly influence our everyday life. For instance, the law of attraction, which suggests that like attracts like, informs us that our thoughts and emotions attract corresponding experiences. By being aware of our thoughts and maintaining a positive mindset, we can attract positive experiences into our lives. The law of cause and effect teaches us that our actions have consequences. By making conscious and thoughtful decisions, we can influence the outcomes in our lives, fostering a sense of responsibility and control over our destiny. In essence, these laws help us understand the interconnections of the universe, encouraging us to live more consciously, harmoniously, and within prosperity. The fundamental laws of the universe. The 12 universal laws provide the basis for the functioning of the universe. They are immutable principles that govern our world and beyond, permeating all levels of existence. Take what I just stated. If you haven't already checked out the connectivity of the realms poster, which you can download for free at our website, metacenterchicago.com, it will connect more dots for those of you who are awakened, which is the majority of you all, if not all. Okay, but for now, let's introduce each of these principles. The law of divine oneness, the principle that everything in the universe is connected and independent. First, let's get into some positive uses. One, understanding that everyone's actions impact the collective consciousness can encourage individual acts of kindness, improving one's community. This understanding, which is number two, this understanding promotes empathy and understanding dissuading harmful behaviors toward others. Because why? If you understand we all connected, we all are connected, whether we rise or fall, it's all going to happen together, then one would be, or should anyway, have reservations in even harming another. Number three, recognizing our interconnection could inspire environmental conservation, understanding and preserving the earth, or just not going above and beyond to actively destroy and poison ultimately benefits all living beings, right? We, in the news, we see all these trail derailments and everything else, amongst many other chemical spills or purposeful chemical dumping into the freshwater rivers and lakes and so forth that people, or to say the local communities, drink from, right? And these people end up with cancers and all the types of strange abnormalities that happen because of that. So if we were all understanding that we are all one, right? The law of divine oneness, right? We're all one, then people would be, have a bit more reservations before they would do something like that. When we allow ourselves to become who we truly are, we discover our passions and want to provide happiness to others, whether our passions are baking, singing, etc. Now, how would a negative entity use this? An ill-intentioned individual may exploit this interconnectedness to manipulate the emotions of others, stirring unrest or fear to achieve personal or political ends. And what we're going to do is right now you're unable to unmute your phone or unmute your Zoom line. But once we get to the end of this, I will allow everybody to be unmuted and you can, you be able to verbally ask any questions or anything like that. In the meantime, if a question or comment does come up while I'm going here, because I don't want you to forget, type it out in the chat room. Okay, type it out. And then at the end of this, I am going to go back into the chat and I will look and see if there's any comments or questions that have popped up during this presentation. The law of vibration. The concept that everything in the universe, from our largest galaxies to the smallest particles, is in constant motion, vibrating at unique frequencies. The positive uses. By deliberately cultivating positive thoughts and emotions, right? That's why we always talk about thought forms, right? Make sure your thought forms are a certain way and so on and so forth, right? So again, by deliberately cultivating positive thoughts and emotions, a person can elevate their vibration to attract positive experiences. In relationships, maintaining a high vibration can lead to stronger, more harmonious interactions. Applying this law in a professional context could result in a more positive work environment and increased productivity. Everything in the world has vibration. Good feelings such as love or a positive attitude would create a higher vibration, whereas a negative attitude would produce a lower or slower vibration. The negative use. A manipulative person might use this law to justify harmful actions, arguing that victims attracted their predicament through their vibrations, right? So you see how that can be misused, right? Oh, the people over here are suffering the way they are because they attracted that. That's when we are totally ignoring the socioeconomic factors that go on around us and so on and so forth. That's why we have to look at not just what we see in front of our eyes, but the broader issue as well. The law of action. The principle stating that we must, let me pause here for a moment, okay? And I should have said this in the beginning. This is my suggestion to all of you all who are listening. I know some of you may have pen and paper and you're trying to jot down everything that you can. Don't worry about that. Okay, I'm putting this on YouTube afterward. I want you ideally just fully engaged in this conversation that we're having. Okay, just be fully engaged in it. Make sure you are hearing everything that's being spoken. Make sure you're seeing everything that's being written, and you're just allowing even your thoughts to take you on a journey as we have our conversation. Okay, because when I open it up for questions and comments, if you are here in the present, and hopefully you're peaceful, peacefully present and presently peaceful, right? That you may have something may come up that you would not have thought of otherwise. Okay, because we're here in the present. Again, this is going to be on YouTube, and once it's going on YouTube, you can sit back and pause it as many times as you want to and do everything you need to do at that point. All right, so that's just my suggestion for everyone here. So let's get back into it. So again, we're talking about the law of action here. So the principle stating that we must engage in actions that support our thoughts, dreams, and emotions in words to manifest the results. So pretty much your whole being needs to be going toward what you're trying to achieve. It cannot be any weird thought forms in there. It cannot be any sporadic behavior. It cannot be anything taking you off the ball. If you really want to manifest, again, that word manifest, right? If you really want to manifest as quickly as possible within your lives for those dreams that you may have, okay? Now, I'm going to warn you about some things. If those dreams are counter to universal law, you're going to have some issue. Even on the individual level and on the greater level, which we're going to actually get into some examples of that, okay? But your whole being needs to be focused on the goal. So again, positive uses here. By understanding the law, an individual can realize the importance of taking actionable steps toward their goals. This law can promote a proactive approach to health and wellness. Understanding the law of action can encourage civic participation, leading to a more engaged and informed community. Many of you have heard me going back many, many years at this point. I had mentioned to you all, because a lot of things, even before the pandemic and all that kind of stuff was taking place, I was telling you all, hey, if you don't like some of these laws and some of these verdicts and things that are happening to people due to maybe unjust laws, then why don't you serve on jury duty? Literally go down there and sign up for it, right? Because you are the one that may be that difference between that person, let's say, for example, getting 10 years just because they had some, some weed or something. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you feel overall that's an unjust law, and people their life should not be sacrificed just because they had a plant. Okay, so regardless if it's something like that, or even on a greater issue, civic participation is part of a society. If you want a society to function, no matter if you are in the boonies, as they say, or in the forest of the Ozarks, okay, or you're in Alaska, or wherever you are, and you have actually a society, a community, well, civic behavior is what will increase the likelihood of that community lasting without any, moral breakdown. So let's see here. Avoiding a problem would never work. The more discipline in oneself to take action with bigger things in life, the small things will take care of themselves. And this is this is interesting because there is a saying, right? Like if you watch the pennies, the dollars will watch themselves, kind of thing, right? So if you watch, you get what I'm saying? So this is interesting. These little sayings are all around us that in many times we just don't pay attention to, and understanding that these are actually universal laws at work. So how would a negative entity utilize this principle? Actually, this is supposed to, yeah. So a negative entity would utilize this principle may use the knowledge of this law to coerce others into acting against their best interests, arguing that their actions will lead to desired results. Typically, scammers use this tactic. Okay, so literally, remember everyone, the universal laws are being utilized all around us, all the time. Okay, and it's just that some of us may not be aware that they're being utilized on us. So how would a scammer utilize this tactic? And hopefully none of you have been scammed, but if you have, it's going to make sense when you hear this. Okay, what they'll do is, right, regardless of what's happening, they know that you want something and you're willing, let's say, to pay for it or whatever needs to happen, right? You are on the, let's say, the good side of this. Okay, you're just trying to get something done, but they're looking to scam you. So they would say, know what, in some form or fashion, okay, I will give you that, but first you need to do this. Okay, or you need to first give me this first before I do that. Right now, in many of those cases, if any of you ever come across that, and if you ever said, no, we're not doing that, we're going to do an equal exchange at the same time, or you have to provide first, they get extremely angry and sometimes even violent because they know that you are putting a block up to their use of this universal action, okay, or this universal law. All right. So I'm going to continue on. Law of correspondence. The idea that patterns repeat throughout the universe, the microcosm mirrors the microcosm. All right, a moment. Okay, so here are some of the positive uses of this law. Someone can use this law to improve their mental health, understanding that changing their internal state can alter their external reality. It can motivate a person to develop healthy habits and attitudes, leading to a better life. It encourages personal accountability, as one recognizes their external world mirrors their internal state. If your mind is concentrated on how unhappy you will continue to have negative energy and negative experiences, which will continue to make you unhappy. How would a negative entity utilize this? Someone with ill intentions could use this law to justify their prejudice or discrimination, claiming others' unfavorable situations are due to their inner flaws or shortcomings. Again, ignoring maybe social economic factors, ignoring even the actions that certain entities may superimpose onto others, okay, which cause a future undesirable behavior in that personal people. And then they say, you see, this is due to your own inner flaws or shortcomings. You see, another universal law in action that happens all around us that maybe we were unaware of. I hope this is resonating with many of you. Now, this is going to be an interesting one here, and I really want you all to really pay attention to this, because I went even deeper, even up to about 5 minutes of the class starting today. I was meditating on this one because there are things actually happening all around us. And so I give a bit more detail with this one, okay? And this is the law of cause and effect. The concept that every action has a corresponding reaction or consequence. Some positive uses of this law. The law can motivate ethical behavior as one understands every action has a corresponding consequence or reaction, okay? The reaction may not necessarily be a consequence per se, but it could be. It promotes thoughtful decision-making, fostering a long-term perspective. It can encourage the pursuit of education and skills, knowing that these efforts will yield future results. So for example, let's say one of you all, 2 of you all, 20 of you all wanted to be a medical doctor or whatever it is, engineer. You want to, whatever input, whatever scenario that you want to do. Well, each day, many of you know, there's a term that I brought about many years ago called no zero-sum days. Okay, and what does that mean? That means every single day you do something towards your goal. Okay, so let's say, I'm going to create a simple example. Let's say you're writing a book, okay? And if every day, yeah, you may want to write, multiple chapters per day. But of course, you may be an adult, you may have children, you're living your life, you only have so much time. Plus, at times, depending upon what you're writing, you want to be in the flow, right? So because of that, you writing chapters every single day may not happen. But what if you just wrote one paragraph a day? Matter of fact, what if you only wrote one sentence a day? At the very least, that's what you did. Of course, you could do more than that. That means that every single day you actually did something toward it. Now, what does that end up? Now, ideally, you may have wanted your book to be done, let's say, in 1 month, but that's only if you wrote multiple chapters a day, which was maybe unreasonable. In only writing one sentence, or maybe only writing one paragraph a day, it may take now 5 years for it to get done. But guess what? In 5 years, it'll be done. When you look at it 2.5 years later, and you still ain't doing a paragraph a day or something like that, you look back and think to yourself like, wow, if I didn't do that, I would still be at 0. I wouldn't have done anything. At least now I'm almost halfway done. Okay. So every single day, again, no zero-sum days. You do at least a little something toward that goal every day. So every action will have a reaction of some sort. According to Newton's third law, now, of course, attributed to Newton, again, these metaphysical laws, universal laws, go into sciences and everything else. That's why, many of you know we do STEM activities all the time. And this gets into Dr. Delbert Blair and myself, right? Dr. Delbert Blair had a love for history, okay? And of course, he had a love for metaphysics. And even though he was an engineer and all these other things as well, one of his main loves was history. This is why in many of his material, you will find historical-based, history-based examples, history-based classes, and so on and so forth, combined with metaphysics. On my end, okay, I'm a STEM person, right? I love STEM, okay? I love creating engineering projects. I love botany. I just love many of these areas and looking at it in a scientific way. So I combine STEM-based projects, STEM-based knowledge with metaphysics. And this is why we do the type of projects and things that we do, looking at even science in a metaphysical way. And many of you have been a part of those projects, and they have been very enjoyable, and it has allowed us to have deeper insight into the reality around us. So according to Newton's third law, for every actionable force, there would be an equal and opposite reaction force, physically, verbally, or mentally. Every statement made will be followed with a comment or a reply, and thus a perfect example of action and reaction. Okay, so now we're going to get into some negative uses, okay? And I was quite detailed in this, and that is for a reason. So, okay, so please pay attention, everyone. So, negative use. An unscrupulous person might exploit this law, manipulating others into actions beneficial to the manipulator under the guise of future rewards. Now, we know that, right? Again, we talked about the whole scammer example, right? That's that. Okay. But now let's go deeper into this. Now I'm going to give you a deeper negative example that is actually taking place around us. It has taken place around us. This examples that I'm going to give you, or this one main example I'm going to give you, has been utilized literally by governments to topple or to control other governments or adversarial groups and so on and so forth. This right now, this tactic is being utilized against the so-called awakened or conscious community now, even more so than it did even back in the 60s, like during the, let's say they call it the hippie revolution and things of that nature, okay? So let's get into this. The law and cause and effect continued. In this instance, the personal group infiltrating another group is initiating as a series of actions with an intended effect to gain control over the group. The infiltrators are the cause, and the eventual domination and control over the group and its resources is the effect. However, it is important to remember that according to this law, these actions will eventually lead to consequences for the infiltrators as well. They may face repercussions in the future as a result of their deceit and manipulation, reflecting the karmic aspect of this law, which is actually happening to some of these groups over the past 1 or 2 months. Many, I'm not going to get into any names, but many of you in the New Age or metaphysical community and so on and so forth have seen it's been an uptick of all types of people, being clearly shown with evidence that, they were utilizing this law in a negative sense. But we're going to go deeper here. In history, whether it be foreign or domestic, the law of cause and effect has been utilized to control groups, small or large. An example, the New Age community overall, now pay attention here, the New Age community or the metaphysical community, regardless if it's the black side or white side and so on and so forth, again, that's a duality and that's nonsense in itself, but the New Age community, I'm encompassing all of it, okay? Overall is an open community. Anyone can come in and anyone can go. People can reinvent themselves, and new concepts and thought forms are brought forth which either blossom or decay, meaning that these thought forms are so powerful that the community grows from it, or the thought forms are nonsense and eventually just die out, okay? Well, this is its strength, but it's also its greatest weakness, as an unscrupulous personal group can enter into this community with ill intent. The goal, because it is an open community, right? Remember that, it's an open community, right? It doesn't have any guards at the door. The goal would be to control, but first they must convince you that they are an authority figure. There are many ways, let's see here, there are many ways to go about this. First, they would take on the caricature of present or past popular authority figures. Why do they do this? So they can seem familiar to you. Because remember, they're trying to convince you of something. Next, they will present themselves as the best thing since sliced bread. Why do they do this? This is done to give you a reason to pay attention to them. But their concepts or solutions are nothing needed nor innovating, as that leads to freedom, which is the opposite of what they want, which is control. Lastly, once step 1 and 2 have been accomplished to a certain degree, they will present gifts, awards, or some form of blessings to make it seem as though they are important enough to actually do so. Remember, they are doing this within a community that was open and didn't do anything like that on a grand scale. But why would these outsiders give out awards? Why would they do this? To control. But unlike other communities that are third density focused, the metaphysical community has many awakened beings who can see these tactics from a mile away. This gets into, again, the cause and effects continue. It's the art of war. Let's see here. The scenario described closely aligns with the strategic principles derived from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. The precise tactics that seem most relevant here are those of deception, subterfuge, and manipulation of authority. Deception and subterfuge are key components of Sun Tzu's strategic advice. As he famously stated, all warfare is based on deception. The individual group in this story uses this technique by infiltrating another group and using their openness against them. By masquerading as a group member, they can exploit the trust and openness that are inherent to the group's dynamics. The individual group's attempt to establish themselves as an authority figure mirrors Sun Tzu's advice about the importance of positional advantage. He discussed the importance of placing oneself beyond defeat before engaging the enemy, suggesting the manipulation of circumstances to one's own favor. In the scenario we spoke of a moment ago, this manipulation is demonstrated through the establishment of perceived authority, thereby securing a favorable position within the group. Once established as an authority figure, this personal group then implements a control over the group's resources and information flow. That right there, that's the whole point. Okay, so I'm not gonna get into any examples, but this throughout history, this has been shown. And even in the 60s and so on and so forth, with the hippie movements and in the New Thought movements and things of that nature back then, this is what happened. And also now, where because we do see the socioeconomic issues that are happening around us, it seems in many ways that the flow of resources is slowing down, that many entities that will have never actually been in the community at all because they are of a criminal element and they would stay in their criminal elements doing what they do. But because those have slowed down and the New Age community, again, is an open community with people who are overall want to be peaceful, and not that doesn't mean they don't have any skill sets to do certain things, but they overall just want to just do their thing. That is, again, their greatest strength and the weakness. So they come into the community all to, again, give awards and all this kind of stuff to make themselves an authority figure. Why? To eventually control the resources and information of that community. This aligns with Sun Tzu's emphasis on seizing opportunities to disrupt the enemy's plans, blocking their options, and preventing their ability to respond effectively. We've seen this even during the whole issue that happened over the last few years, right? People were on many of these social media platforms, they were blocking the ability for people just to communicate if they didn't like what you were communicating. It doesn't mean you were violent. It doesn't mean any of that. You were just saying something different than what they were saying, and they just blocked you, deleted you entirely from. And they did this simultaneously, like they were all in communication. Like, okay, this person now needs to be blocked off this platform, and all of them will block that person or group off all the platforms at the same exact time. By controlling the flow of resources and information within the group, they effectively restrict the group's capabilities, stifling their ability to resist or counteract the infiltrator's influence. So once this entity or entities established, or at least attempt to establish themselves as a authority figure, and again, giving out awards, gifts, or whatever it may be, to make it seem like they are an authority in the first place to be able to do that. Yeah, like, okay, you see how ridiculous it really is, right? But nevertheless, from that point, they take hold of the resources of that community, okay? And now, at least they will attempt to, solidify their position pretty much forever, almost being like a dictator at that point, okay? Let's continue on. But who is the enemy in this scenario? It's you all. It's the people, actually. Your thoughts, the fact that you're seeking out the truth, You wanting to connect deeply, not only with yourself, but with others in the divine. This is what is hated and it has to be controlled. It has to be controlled. As many of you know, of course, in our classes, we go deep, right? So we're not just going to baby you because you all are adults. We feel that, of course, most of you all here are supporters. There are a few people here who just learned about the Metacenter and so on and so forth, and it's the first class they have ever attended to. But most of you all are been supporters for years. And because of that, we do respect you enough to not waste your time, okay? Because it's only 1,440 minutes in a day. And no matter what our belief system is, we're not going to get even 1 minute more added to our life. So we have to use our time wisely. So now let's get into the next law here. This is the law of compensation. The principle that rewards and blessings are the direct results of our past action or deeds. The positive use. This law can inspire philanthropy with the understanding that generosity leads to personal abundance. Again, some of these laws, again, they intertwine with others in some ways, right? They have to be utilized a very specific way. And again, with the Metacenter, we have over at this point, we say at this point it's over 50 years, so we have to keep every year adding it up, but really it's over 65 years of metaphysical understanding. And even though we sit back and we really are, we don't make a whole lot of noise, right? We're not grandstanding on social media or anything like that. Think about it, that's 65 years of know-how, especially from 50 years or so from the Grand Master. Some would say, he wouldn't say that, he would say he's a lifelong student, but Dr. Delbert Blair, the metaphysical master. Okay, so even just off his information and then off of what we have been continually building from that point, supporters, you all, it would be a high disadvantage to you to not even book. We have so much free stuff on the website, but even the free consultations that we offer, I mean, you're doing yourself a disadvantage for not booking a free consultation to talk about maybe those things going on within your life and to see how it can be changed to your benefit. I mean, you support, so this is as you feed into us, this is our feeding back into you. So let's continue on here. So still continuing on with the positive uses of the law of compensation. All right. It encourages continuous self-improvement as one knows their efforts will be compensated. It promotes an optimistic outlook as setbacks are viewed as opportunities for greater rewards, right? So setbacks are also not setbacks, but challenges, right? To overcome and to make us stronger, to make us more knowledgeable, to make us more wise. You get what you give, or in another word, karma. Whenever someone smiles, your mood instantly changes. Be generous and donate what you have, and those things will come back to you in various forms. The negative use. Someone would manipulate this law, justifying exploitative actions by claiming they are compensating for past losses. The law of attraction. The idea that we attract into our lives whatever we focus our thoughts and emotional energy on, whether positive or negative. Positive use. A person can leverage this law to attract desired outcomes, whether that's a new job, a loving relationship, or improved health, by maintaining a positive, optimistic mindset. It can guide someone to cultivate a growth mindset as they understand that the energy they put out comes back. Right? So that's why I say here, right? You all support. So we're using our 65 plus years of metaphysical know-how, which in the New Age community, there's not really anyone that has that amount of knowledge in the background. That it's for you. It's for you to be able to be the best that you can in your life. So it can guide someone to cultivate, again, a growth mindset as they understand that the energy they put out comes back. It can encourage mindfulness and purposeful living with a person choosing actions, thoughts, and words in alignment with their goals. People with similar interests, such as being a fan of a similar football club, would bring them closer as there is a there's a connection made. The negative use. A manipulator might exploit this law by affecting others' beliefs, making them feel responsible for the negative circumstances that have been imposed on them. When have we heard of, the reason why a certain community or demographic can't rise because they're cursed. They've been cursed by God. Okay, how many of you have heard this? So it can't be the historical bombardment by multiple groups that have literally devastated their way of living multiple times to the point where their mind's just gone. It couldn't be that, right? It couldn't be socioeconomic factors on top of that. It couldn't be the poisoning of the water. It couldn't be none of these scenarios, right? It's just they're cursed, and that's just what it is, you know. So these are why that we had to come out and do these type of classes at this point. And shout out to all of you all for your support all these years, because now we're doing this now, right? We're at this point, okay? Because there's a lot of not only negative thought forms within the communities at large. I'm including the whole New Age community as a large, very negative thought forms I'm seeing that are prospering. When I say prospering, I mean negative thought forms that are being communicated between everyone, okay, versus the more positive things that actually lead to a better existence, which the New Age community was always known for. So at this point, we have to show you what it is and how it is so that you can really see what is true and what is not. All right, let's continue. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy. The principle that all persons have within them the power to change their lives by understanding and using these laws. Many of you have heard me many, many times over the years now talk about your internal vortex. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? So the internal vortex is your soul engine, right? That allows you to put forth the energetic force that's needed to do whatever you need to in your life. And most people, I have not come across a person, even sometimes the most negative person in the world, still has enough force to change their life, okay? In some way or fashion for a positive end. So let's get into the positive uses. Individuals can use this law to change their circumstances by consciously altering their energy or emotional state. It can promote resilience during challenging times, with the understanding that energy is always changing, and therefore so can one's circumstances. You see? The only reason why one is, if you got 2 arms and 2 legs, you are able, you're not physically have a physical, issue that prevents you from getting around. So you're moving around just like everybody else, okay? You're able to comprehend concepts, at least at the average level, like everyone else, okay? That means that the only reason why you're not able to move off step 1 is because of your own mind. Nothing else is stopping you from doing that. It's your own mind convincing yourself to stay in place. Now, if that's what you choose to do, you have that divine right to choose to do so. So, continuing on here. Let's see here. Okay, it can promote resilience during challenging times with the understanding that energy, okay, I already said that. It also encourages active pursuit of personal goals with the knowledge that dedicated energy can manifest again, desired outcomes. Higher vibrations, with is not necessarily a good thing. So, okay, higher vibrations is not necessarily a good thing. Could be looked at as feeding on lower ones, okay? So just because one is at a higher vibration does not mean that they are good. It doesn't mean that this higher vibration necessarily is a good thing, okay? There are those supposedly at a higher vibration that feed on the lower ones. Some give these entities the label of archons, dracons, etc. They are the personification of the law and operate within it, and they would not exist without it. So without the ability to feed on those in the lower vibrations, they wouldn't even exist. because they get their nutrition from those vibrations that they are manipulating to extract energy from. An ill-intentioned person might manipulate others' energy for their benefit, exploiting the vulnerable or insecure. How many times on social media, you all, many of us, like I mostly look at STEM stuff, okay, on social media, but still, I watch the entertaining things and just like many of you do. And how many times have you heard people, instead of giving an actual or actionable method or methodology to correct certain actions, behaviors, or circumstances, or just so that people could be in a better state, they pry on it and they continue to keep saying, even politically, we see this. Talk about how things are so down the dirt, almost as if certain people or demographics are unable to do anything else. They pry on on the vulnerable or those who feel insecure about who they are to profit off of them. Now you know what universal law they're using. Those people who are doing that are either they may have a doorway closed, which we get into that later, right? They may have a doorway closed, but either they themselves are very vampiristic entities, or they may be working on behalf of the archons and dracons to do just that, to extract more resources. The law of relativity. The concept that each person will receive a series of problems for the purpose of strengthening the light within. The positive use. Individuals can leverage this law to foster empathy and understanding by comparing their problems with those of others. So seeing that someone else has been through similar circumstances as you can show that you're not alone, okay, that others have been through it and that you can grow from it just like they have. It can motivate a person to overcome their challenges, seeing them as stepping stones rather than obstacles, right? That's why we tend to, when we do have classes, stuff like that, we give multiple examples. We go on and on and on to make sure, without a doubt, you know what's taking place and how it's taking place and how to get past it, or how we can understand this deeper, whether it be about history or, of course, metaphysical concepts. It encourages a more content and grateful life as one learns to see their situation relative to others' experiences. We face many problems daily, thinking it can't be worse than the problems faced by the people, let's say, of Africa. Okay? So, negative use. Someone with harmful intent might use this law to trivialize others' problems, making them feel inferior or grateful or ungrateful. Okay. The law of polarity. This principle that everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its opposite. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Positive use. Someone can use this law to maintain optimism and hope during challenging times, recognizing that every situation that has a positive aspect. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Someone can use this law to maintain optimism and hope during challenging times, recognizing that every situation has a positive aspect. Okay. It promotes personal growth, as one can learn to see opportunities in adversities. It encourages acceptance and balance, understanding that life is a mixture of contrasting experiences. If we have not gone through sadness, we would not know what happiness feels like. You see? Negative use. A deceitful person can manipulate this law, playing on people's fears and insecurities to control or exploit them. As you see, some of these laws are very similar in the negative sense, where, and this is, of course, playing out amongst us. The law of rhythm. The idea that everything flows in and out, swings backward and forward, and has its seasons. Positive use. Individuals can work with this law to anticipate and prepare for life's natural cycles, understanding that periods of difficulty will be followed by times of ease. It can guide a person to live in harmony with life's ebbs and flows, fostering acceptance and patience. It encourages resilience as one knows that challenging times are temporary and will pass. Even the best athletes will fall sooner or later. Instead of seeing yourself getting weaker, you will see it as a sign for you to rest your body. Facing the negative part of each cycle will allow you to master the rhythm. Now, there's a most definitely a very interesting rhythm going on right now in the world around us. Many of you all should be getting those free consultations. An exploitative person might use this law to predict and take advantage of others during downswings. All right. So the law of gender, the principle that everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes of existence. According to the universal law, everything has its masculine, the yang, and feminine, the yin, principles. Each individual should balance between this so-called masculine and feminine energies to become the master of themselves. Okay? It can guide someone to appreciate and respect the diversity of human experiences, promoting unity and understanding. It encourages patience and perseverance, understanding that every goal has a gestation period before it manifests. Okay, every goal has a gestation period, has a just period that it has, that is sitting there, growing. It's, before it blossoms, right? It has to go through those stages of growth, like a plant, a flower. A manipulative person could misuse this law, enforcing duality to control or oppress ideas, individuals, groups, or cultures. Black versus white, men versus women, political left versus political right, and so on. That's that those who you hear on social media or on the news or so on and so forth who are doing that whole duality theater, they're utilizing the universal law of gender. Let's get into some case studies. All right, the historical examples of the laws in action. The law of vibration can be traced back to the scientific discoveries of Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr in the early 20th century. These scientists' groundbreaking work in quantum physics revealed that every particle in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency. The law of attraction is often associated with the New Age movement, okay, which gained popularity in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The most notable book from this era, The Science of Getting Rich, by Wallace D. Wattles, has provided a roadmap for countless individuals seeking to attract wealth and abundance into their lives, which is, that in itself is almost a trap in a way, because let's think about it like this, everyone. If we were to look, do you own the dollar? If you take a dollar bill or $100 bill, doesn't matter what it is, do you actually own it? Okay. The fact is you don't, that means someone else owns it. So if what I'm saying is true and someone else actually owns the money that you have in your hand, even if you got tons of money in your bank account, cool. And you're able to travel the world, cool. But if someone else actually owns it, they can manipulate it anytime they want to, which then messes with the ability to actually manifest in certain ways. So that's why when it comes to manifestation, many people are just seeking money itself, which is not what to seek. You should seek yourself in whatever way that is, okay? Modern day application of the laws. In recent years, the law of attraction gained renewed interest due to the publication of Rhonda Byrne's The Secret in 2006. This book and subsequent documentary introduced many people to the idea of positive thinking can attract positive results in one's life. Again, it was nothing really, what she put out was known for thousands of years. It was nothing new about that. It is that information has become so suppressed, again, by controllers, right? We talked about how these entities who are draconic or iconic and their energetic state, how they infiltrate groups and to control information. Well, that has happened on a major scale many, many, many times, okay? And each time it has happened, the information that was there, those very positive thought forms that could literally change us and heal our bodies and heal our minds right now, heal our spirits right now without searching our entire lives for it, that information was taken, it was suppressed, and it was controlled within whoever entity was trying to control it, and then it disappeared out of the public domain. And which is happening again right now. That's why I went deeper into the law of cause and effect, because it was very important for you to understand what's taking place around you right now. The law of vibration has been increasingly recognized in the field of health and wellness, with the rise of practices such as yoga and meditation that aim to align one's vibrational energy for improved physical and mental health. The misuse of the laws. Unfortunately, the laws can be misused, leading to victim blaming and lack of empathy. The law of attraction, for example, can be misinterpreted to mean that people are entirely responsible for their misfortunes, from financial struggles to health issues. This viewpoint overlooks societal factors that contribute to such problems and places undue blame on those who suffer from them. Okay. Similarly, the law of vibration could be exploited by those who promote, let's see here. Okay, my screen changed here. All right, so similarly, the law of vibration could be exploited by those who promote, I think I did it again, pseudoscientific health practices. Some might claim that by merely adjusting one's vibrational state, they can cure illnesses or ailments without any scientific basis for these assertions, and potentially discouraging individuals from seeking necessary medical treatment. We have seen this time and time again, you all. After I get past this part here, I'm going to tell you all a story. Which I do get many calls like this, where people could easily eradicate an issue they have by a simple doctor's appointment to get the antibiotics, but it ended up getting out of control because they were following the protocols of like just breathe air or think good thoughts to heal themselves when an infection has already taken control. Okay, there's been like an anti-Western medicine movement. And some people, maybe even some of you all could attest to this. Some of you have actually called me and had that kind of mindset due to watching these entities on social media, right? And when I received those calls, I said, why do you, every system has its pros and its cons, right? There's most definitely quite a few things I would not go to Western practitioners of allopathic medicine for. But let's say, for example, if one falls down, hurts themselves in a catastrophic way, the system here will get you going. It would get you back, because they're trying to, you need to be doing what you need to do so they can keep extracting resources. Okay, so they're going to utilize through emergency medicine. Again, I'm talking about the Western aspect of emergency medicine. Oh, it's beautiful. It gets people back going, most definitely. Okay, and so even simple things, right? Even though antibiotics, things of that nature, are actually wiping out your internal ecosystem, and for those who, which I'm getting to in a moment here, who will be attending the upcoming class 2 weeks from now, and also those people who have attended it 2 weeks ago, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about biotic and abiotic. Okay, but we're going to get deeper into that even in the class. I'm putting forth a little bit more information in it based on your questions and comments you made during that class. But every system, at least in these times, has its duality. It has its pros and has its cons. If you literally have something going on that literally you can literally just make a simple doctor's appointment and get it eradicated immediately, why even play around with it? Okay, but just breathe it in and just thinking good thoughts, just breathing air, more than likely is not going to help with that situation. Okay, and you're talking to, again, an organization. We have over 65 years of metaphysical know-how, but that goes into health history. I've been into health myself for decades, wrote papers on certain subjects and everything. Okay, yeah, even I will say that. So, and I am saying that. So let's continue on here. So let me tell you a story, you all. And this is the reason why this also brought about this class. A few weeks ago, a young person called me and was literally crying on the phone. And when I asked them, what's the problem? People, this is not the first time. This happens more times than you all will ever realize. Okay, I asked them, what's going on, and they told me that they can't connect with the entities on the 99th dimension. Literally, this person was spazzing, crying their heart out because they were listening to somebody, which I'm not going to name, listening to somebody on social media talking about how it's these entities on the 99th dimension who are there waiting to take people pretty much off world and to save them who are really ready to be saved and stuff like that and so on and so forth, right? And this person was not saying this in a joking way because the person linked me to the video. This entity, I'm calling him an entity now, that I'm talking about was 100% serious, and people were all in the comments. They were all in the comments saying these phrases and things of that nature that this person was promoting. And so this young person who called was crying because they keep trying to connect with these entities on the 99th dimension, but it wasn't working. And of course, we had a long conversation. And obviously, because we know that was, BS, for a long story short. Okay. So just be careful, you all. This place is a magical place. It could be anything that we all want it to be. But again, the control of the magic of the place is what's the problem. Okay? It's not the place itself. This is a beautiful place. How to consciously apply these laws in your daily life. To consciously apply the law of attraction in daily life, one could start with setting clear, positive intentions for what they wish to attract. This could be done through methods like visualization, affirmations, or maintaining a gratitude journal to foster a positive mindset. Using the law of action, one might set specific attainable goals and take consistent steps towards achieving them. This might involve creating a daily action plan or implementing productivity techniques such as time blocking. This is using the universal laws to actually manifest, which we know many are using that word all over the place without the know-how to put it forth properly. Now you know. Now, just so you know, many of you already knew this because you got the consultations, but if some of you like, well, I'm happy, if you're thinking that, like, oh, I'm happy I finally got the clear knowledge of actually doing this. Well, especially if you're a supporter, this is basic stuff. Okay. You could have got a consultation 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this point and got this information. Okay. So that's what I'm saying here, that, utilize the resources that are available to you. Developing a personal approach to using the laws for personal growth. Personal growth using the law of cause and effect could involve self-reflection and taking responsibility for one's actions, which is like book one lessons, right? There are many of you all who are doing the superhuman classes, or who just wanted to learn how to release that darkness or that karma that may have attributed onto your magnetic body. Okay. Well, the book one lessons from the website, the first lesson is the outward projection of the ego. Okay, that lesson will most definitely, if you do that lesson properly, it will most definitely rid you of a lot of that accumulation. One might take time at the end of each day to review their actions, considering the effects they have had and what they might do differently in the future. The law of rhythm can inspire personal growth approach that embraces life's ups and downs, recognizing that periods of difficulty are temporary and part of the natural rhythm of life, can foster resilience and a balanced perspective, the ebb and flow of existence, which I did mention this previously, right? Again, as many of you know, we're going to keep this feeding it to you in a little bit different ways, say it a little bit differently so it stays within your mind, right? So with that, there's the ebb and flow, right? The up and down, the left and right. Nobody's existence stays exactly the same unless they are actively doing something or not doing something to make it be exactly the same. Now, some existences you may want to be exactly the same, right? Well, then, like, for example, let's say, there's certain prosperity-based actions that one can do if they have a really good life but they notice that there's some turbulent activity happening around us, and they want to, within their life, based on their individual circumstance, they want to make it so that it stays like that. So they continue to live this happy existence and don't go into those arenas where it's much more turbulent. Okay. So the ethical considerations and potential pitfalls. In practicing the law of attraction, an ethical consideration is to ensure that what one is trying to attract does not harm or infringe upon the rights of others. An example of a potential pitfall might be focusing solely on attracting material wealth without considering the potential consequences for one's personal relationships or societal inequity. Okay? Oh, inequality, sorry. Inequality. So, an example of that is that, okay, you have the ability to create a factory down the street, again, on a body of water. You know this water is going to poison the drinking water of millions of people. You have two options: you do it or don't do it. Many, in the historical sense, have chosen to do it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. All right. So, for example, let's say right now you can make millions of dollars a year, but again, I just mentioned that. So, would you build this factory? Many would say they wouldn't publicly, but is that the truth? With the law of vibration, one should be mindful not to fall into the trap of so-called vibrational elitism. The idea that some people are inherently better or more deserving than others based on their vibrational frequency, which we do see that a lot as well, right? This can lead to exclusionary attitudes and a lack of compassion for those who are perceived as being at a lower frequency. Racism, classism, casteism, anyone? Now, the law of vibration is true, though. Remember, it's a universal law, and it is real, but it's been bastardized, like everything else has been corrupted and utilized in a way to, again, control instead of in a way to actually separate those who truly do have a negative, very parasitic vibration versus those who do not. Also, those who may have that parasitic vibration, some of them, are there techniques for many of them to reverse that? Or are those people, for example, just completely doomed? Key takeaways. We have journeyed through the 12 universal recognized laws of the universe, exploring their origin, their impact on our lives, and how we can consciously apply them for personal growth and societal well-being. The key takeaway is that these laws are always at work, whether we are aware of them or not. Therefore, understanding and working in harmony with them can significantly enhance our personal lives and our interactions with the world around us. We invite you to reflect on these laws and how you can consciously incorporate them into your life of positive change. We also encourage you to delve deeper, read more, and experiment with these laws. Remember, the journey of understanding and applying these laws is a personal and ongoing one. Now that we have explored these laws in depth, do any of you have any instances from your personal lives where you've seen these laws at play? Or do you have any questions about how to apply them in your daily life? Or just any comments about what is taking place? Before we even get to those comments or questions and concerns, just to let you know, if you enjoyed this, in 2 weeks from now, many of you already know about it, but it's the Soul's Doorway class. I'm just going to tell you all off top, the majority of people have a doorway installed. And that doorway is preventing you from being literally you. It's preventing you from being you, literally. Okay. Many of the thoughts that you have and so on and so forth come from the shadow version of yourself, not from your true self. And we flow just like this. So you will understand it absolutely completely. Okay. It will be no confusion at all. Okay. So with that, again, that class is 2 weeks from now on a Saturday. And then we have a S.T.E.M class, which is Secrets in the Shadows, where we'll be talking about codes and ciphers and symbolism. We're going to get into the history of it. And then also we're going to get into actually utilizing it directly in the class. We're going to create ciphers and we're going to break ciphers. But not only that, many of you who will be part of this class, you'll be winning prizes I'm gonna put ciphers on the screen. If you able to break the ciphers, whoever can break it first will get, this prize, that prize, and so on and so forth. So, especially if you have any young people who are interested in STEM, this will be a class to see if they're interested in a very specific area of STEM, which deals with cryptography. Okay. So let's go back here. Okay, so I'm about to let me end the share for now. One moment here. All right, so I'm about to let me change this here. Let's see. Okay, we good to go, everyone. Okay, so I'm about to allow you all to unmute your mic and everything now if you need to. Shout out to all of you there. Okay, let's see. Okay. So you can unmute your mic if you choose to now.
Hey, what's up, Tone?
Hey, what's up, Ed?
How you doing? No, excellent, excellent as always. Just wanted to chime in and say DJ Vortex on the ones and twos.
You're hilarious. Oh yeah. So what's up, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well there. Yeah, appreciate that, Ed. Okay, we got Antoine here.
Peace, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you again. Thank you for all of this. I believe it was the law of transmutation.
Okay.
And the so can one facilitate ridding themselves of illnesses or bacteria and all of those false things that don't serve us? Can they do that with the law of transmutation and the fact that energy is always changing through meditation? Is that possible?
Meditation. See, the thing about it is that when it comes to let's talk about an illness wise, right? It wasn't just meditation that brought that illness on. You know what I'm saying? It was an actual transference of energy from one entity, let's say, to another. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in that case, the same type of principle will have to be enacted to more than likely reverse that issue.
Okay.
Not just meditation, because the meditation didn't bring that issue on in the first place.
Understood. Understood.
If it was kind of like a corrupted mindset that brought it on, then maybe corrupting that within us could potentially do that.
Okay. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you. With a strong enough mind, that is. Let me add that. All right. So let's see something here, everyone. So since this is one of the first times that we have to have the camera going here, this is this whole lot of boxes on the screen to control all this stuff that I never had to really mess with before. So, okay. So let me look in here if there's any comments or questions here in the chat room. All right. Sierra asks, is there a difference between the universal laws and hermetic laws? Some of them are the same, some of them are different. Most of them have their similarities. Yeah, wise feminists say, I do believe they are the same, just referred to differently. Yeah, for the most part. Another person mentioned 12. I thought there were only 7. There's actually many more than 12. Okay, the 7 are the main ones or bases. I went a little bit past that, but we go up to about 24. And I was actually going to do that, but some of them can get kind of redundant. Also, some of them kind of are iffy because they were added later on by certain new age movements and stuff like that. And so I don't add those into it. All right. Okay, so let's continue on here. Ancient said the so-called thought leaders of the conscious community. Okay, spot on there. Okay. Okay, I'm going through here. Sage had mentioned if you don't have a foundation to stand on, you are easy prey, 100%. Markia mentioned, a lot of them on these social media streets. Touche. Okay, one person here, I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm glad that you did enjoy. Siobhan said the same, Ancient said the same, Andre, Carrie. Okay. Thank you, TCL. Gratitude, Markia. Okay, it looked like Anj, look like you had something to say. You can unmute your mic if you need to.
Sorry about that. Hey, Tony, 1 second, please.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, Tony. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And I really liked how we talked about the perpetual transmutation of energy, that law.
Mm-hmm.
There was one thing that you said that I just never actually realized is that people can have high vibe. So my assumption before you mentioned this today is that if a person has a high vibration, they're typically a positive person. But what you helped me see today, that just because someone has a high vibration, it doesn't mean that they're a positive person. And as you were speaking, it just kind of reminded me of how a lot of people who have high vibrations, but who can be kind of negative, do have like, they use that as an ability to kind of be vampires and just drain other people around them. And I know with me being a very empathetic person and being a very compassionate person, I have found myself at times, I won't necessarily say a victim to people with high vibrations, but low intentions. But it seems as though they kind of know how to pick those of us out who are highly compassionate and highly empathetic. So I was just very happy to just hear you say that just because someone has a high vibration, it doesn't mean that they are that they are necessarily a positive person. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. So let me give you all an easy example of this. All right. Most of you all have at least heard of Star Wars. Okay. Star Wars, you had what? You had the Jedi and you had the Sith. Okay. Both of the Sith are typically portrayed as evil, right? But guess what? They were extremely high vibrational beings too. They were on the level of the Jedi. Okay. The Sith were more self-serving, while the Jedi were more okay, so the Sith were more so, let's say, where my needs over the collective needs. Okay, these Jedi are more the collective's needs over my needs. They're both extremes. Okay, you want to balance between those two. So those are both considered extremists. Okay, because what if you want to pursue life and have a good life, but the collective needs mean that you should be in the mines and never see daylight? Okay, that's the collective need. The collective needs need you in the mines underneath the earth. Okay, you know, so on and so forth, right? And so that's it's not a good thing for you individually. So that's taken to its extreme. And so one wants balance within their life. All right. So if you have not seen Star Wars, you should. I consider Star Wars a documentary, especially the Clone Wars. Okay, so Sierra asked here, and thank you for that question, Anj, or that comment. So Sierra mentioned here, what is your take on using holistic medicine to heal the body in addition to meditation, breathwork? That's fantastic, as long as the issue came from natural sources. There's fungi, viruses, and parasites. Okay, and then now we have creations of issues that are a mixture of those three things. So if your issue is a truly natural issue, then holistic means will more than likely take care of that issue. If it's not a natural issue, then you may have some issues trying to take care of it by holistic means. Okay, that's why you gotta keep your vibrational high. On the screen here, that's why I show some different holistic products that we have been creating for, 50 years at this point. So of course you got colloidal gold. Okay, Dr. Blair was selling this for about 25 years. Okay, and we use the same stuff. I just dosed myself a few times with this. This is a newer one that we came up with, which is the colloidal combo. The combo is gold, silver, and copper. Okay, that's the one I typically prefer at this point. Okay, but this is gold only. Okay, this is the one Dr. Blair again was selling for 15 years. Then you have, if you go to the gold powder, Dr. Blair was selling this back in the 80s.
You're coming in a little bit muffled.
Okay, let's see here. Hopefully that's a little bit better there. Is that a little bit better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so here is gold powder, and Dr. Blair was selling this for since the 80s. You talking about 50-some years? So you want to keep your vibration high. You want to make sure that everything you do, hopefully you're making really stable, positive steps, especially in these times. Okay. Okay, business, financial, and investment says, thank you for this presentation. Extremely informative. I do appreciate your presence. I have the breakdown in my notes from last year. This was fire. I appreciate you. That is fire, Jasmine. So I'm glad that I was able to bring that forth. Diana says, good afternoon, all. Hope all is doing well. Thank you, Tony, for your words of wisdom, thought-provoking conversation. Excellent. I'm glad that you enjoyed. Okay, I'm trying to go through, see here. Okay, Sage asked, Clone Wars movie or Clone Wars animated series? The original Clone Wars movie, Star Wars, right? The Clone Wars animated series is good too, but that was kind of going deeper into the minor aspects of what was happening overall concerning the major situation that took place in the movie. Okay, the Clone Wars movie itself. All right. So Z said here, this form of presentation I like very much. These rules are very important. Teaching this to young children will provide an understanding in their lives, especially in times of mass, unfiltered information. Okay, so that's all the questions or comments from the chat. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns from the live line?
Hey, Tony, this is Cassandra. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Greetings, everyone. Question for you. Okay, in this time frame, I've been doing some research and I've come into the knowledge of understanding that there are actual technologies being used to alter the frequency and the vibration in the atmosphere. Take, for example, like with music, that they change the frequency or the vibration from 432 to 440, which is, it alters it to make it more negative. Can you speak on a little bit of that?
We talked about we talked about the law of vibration, right? So everything's vibration. Okay, or everything you could say is sound, everything is music. And so I would just say this. You want things to be as close to the original form as possible, especially in times like this, right? Now, there could be a society, for example, that we can go way above, way down the line from where things were foundational, and it could still be really positive and beautiful, right? But we know that there's a entity here or entities here that are purposely manipulating things that is not for our benefit. So my suggestion was to try to keep things as simple as possible. For example, instead of listening to music and so forth through computers and things like that all the time, instead go to a live concert or listen to live music instead, right? So hear directly from those instruments directly. When it comes to like, that's why I don't personally listen to frequencies a lot of times through the earphones unless I create them, mostly myself. Okay, just because those, again, they could change the way your thoughts move and so on and so forth. So in short, even like the frequencies of the towers, right? We all being bombarded with frequencies all the time. Actually, if you give me a moment here, hey, give me a moment. One moment. See, and she thought I had this elsewhere. So for example, this here's an EMF meter. Okay, so you can see that there, right? So I'm going to turn the volume up as well. So you can hear that. Okay. So on this side here, all right, this is the frequencies right now in the area that I'm in here in Chicago that are hitting on the average level right here, all right, peaking. Okay, and this is the average of that peak, right? So this should be down here, it should be in the green. Like when we go on some of our travels across, well, let's say the places that we do, a lot of times it's in the green. Okay, and that's what you want, right? But of course, we've been being bombarded all the time with frequencies. You see that? That's not good at all. You see? So these are the peaks that are hitting right now. All right, and this is over here the average of all those peaks hitting. And these frequencies cause issues to the body. Okay, it causes many people these days are confused, right? If you think about it, are any of you confused right now? Like it's confused or suffering from some form of confusion when there's no reason for it. Like you may be eating good food and so on and so forth. It's because the frequencies all around us. All right, so this gets into that's one kind of jump around. This gets to a complex subject that requires much more than just a quick answer to really get as deep as it can with it. But we have many tools on the website. We've been having many tools for a while, like the EMF fabric and so on and so forth. We got the EMF beanies that you can put over your head. Of course, I have the EMF fabric right now in my cap, okay, to protect against some of that. All right. Okay, is there any other?
Thanks for that, Tony.
Oh, thank you, Cassandra. So, any other comments, questions, or concerns for now? Anyone? If so, unmute your phone. Oh yeah, and for everyone here who did come to the, just want to put this out there since we all here on the line together. Everyone who came to the live Souls Doorway class, you're going to get an email from me because you can, you could attend the upcoming one for free. Okay, so you don't have to pay if you want to revisit the class virtually. Just look for that email, and you'll just be able to sign up for it, and there's no charge on that. So, and I'll be sending out that email probably sometime late next week. And if there, of course, if any questions come up, I'm a phone call away, 888-969-6465. I'm going to share my screen real quick of that, just so you can see the flyer again, you all. Okay, one moment here. All right.
Hey, Tony, I had a quick question for you.
How you doing, Andre?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
I'm good.
What's good, family? One of the questions I had in terms of I'm not sure if anybody else on the call deals with it, but I do a lot as far as dealing with my children, and then I do a lot of mentorship work in the community. But there's a lot of children who are struggling with an I would say negative mindset, or like maybe depression, suicidal thoughts, just like taking on the weight of the world and not really knowing how to transmute those feelings or those thoughts. So what would be your recommendation in terms of trying to help them to increase positive thinking and a positive mindset, and kind of alleviating some of the negative thoughts and trials and tribulations that they deal with on a daily basis?
Well, that's a deep one. Of course, and you you were at the class, right? And
right.
You see how many hours that class was to get that certain point across, at least from the adult to the adults, right?
Right.
So when it comes to the children, there's just a few things. They need positive reinforcement, number one. They need to
Right.
see examples. Children learn more from observation and the positive
Right.
reinforcement versus you verbally telling them something, right? So if they see, for example,
Gotcha.
if they see, because we know there's most definitely a lot of destructive behavior going on with young so-called melanated boys. Okay.
Right.
And so, for example, they've seen all throughout the community men walking around carrying themselves with respect. Okay. And if they found themselves in positions where they start to act a bit erratic, those men in the community see that, of course, and correct that behavior and address that behavior on kind of like on the spot for the most part. Okay. So pretty much we're talking about the community or a tribe and so on and so forth. And they are, as a collective, they want its members to be as positive and to grow into beings that contribute back to the community or tribe, right? So I would say it starts there. And of course, we know that's easier said than done because we do see the outright destruction of the male archetype, number one, okay? Let alone men collectively doing what is really needed, okay, based on all that we see around us. So I would say as individual men, be that positive thought form within your space, project that masculine archetype in the best way that you feel it can be brought forth. And in that, if some words of wisdom could be shared, just share those words of wisdom. Okay. Of course you could tell them to meditate and so on and so forth, but they need constant visual reinforcement. Okay, so right now, for example, you mentioned the suicide and so on and so forth, right? We know we in very interesting times when countries now are starting to offer euthanasia to people. Okay, that was something that was off the books. Things like that don't come about unless society has degraded to a certain point. And so it has degraded to a certain point where, like Canada, for example, first it was only those who were terminally ill. Now it's to those who are considered feeble-minded and so on and so forth, right? And now they're thinking to open it up to pretty much anyone who feels that they want to be euthanized, which means that you go into a facility and you don't leave back out permanently. Okay. So, yeah.
One more question on that, because now from what I've learned and studied in terms of suicide, what if a person does that, or a soul does that, from what I've gathered or learned, is that the end all be all for that particular person? Like, is that the end of their life on the astral plane, the spiritual plane, the soul plane, etc.? Or like, how's that? Because I know there's got to be consequences for people taking their own lives, or are there consequences for that?
Well, I'm not going to act like I'm the authority in afterlife behaviors and things, because I'm not. Okay. But what I'm going to say is that there's much more here than what we see. And if a person has a soul, then that soul continues on in some form or fashion. Okay. Will it be recycled back to repeat again? Will it go to some type of purgatory, which some religious entities say it goes to a purgatory of some sort, called hell or heaven or something like that, or a place where it's just like in limbo forever kind of thing. Again, will it be recycled back here to earth again just to relive another life? There's many religious orders that believe that. They don't believe in a purgatory at all. They believe no matter what happens, you're just going to keep being recycled back. There are other major religious orders that believe that you're recycled back. There's no purgatory, but you're recycled back, and you either go further up the ladder or down the ladder based on your previous life experiences and behaviors. Okay. We can go on and on and on concerning what ifs concerning that. And I'm just going to leave that one at that for now.
I got you. I appreciate it, bro.
I appreciate you. Okay. I would do know this though, right? Supposedly, now peep this, you all, right? Which is interesting in itself. Now, this is a conundrum, right? On one hand, obviously, there's some type of entity that wants us all gone, right? Right. But if in mass we all decided to just leave right now, it would do everything it can to stop that. And you would say, why would they stop that when he wants to go in the first place? Because it's a controlled demolition. They have to still have the Draconians and Archons still need, their stock to feed off of. They can't have everybody leaving, then that leaves them with no food. All right, so Markia says, I have twins, 24-year-old going through something. It's been challenging, but I will keep pushing forward and help where I can. Markia, don't be afraid of a consultation. Again, we offer consultations on the website. We have, let me actually pull it up on the screen here so you all can see this. Okay, so we could bring it forth here. All right, one moment. Just so you all can see where this stuff is. I'm going to go to the Metacenter website, and then I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so I'm about to share my screen. Okay, so you all should see my screen there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, let me move this out the way. All right, so if you go to services, okay, this is looking at it from an actual computer, okay, versus a phone or a tablet. Okay, so I'm going over here to services. You see the different types of consultations there. Let's just click on this so it takes us over. Okay, so like here's a different type of free consultations, of course. The main one that you all want to choose is the 30-minute consultation for free. That's the main one there. Because that's all most time people need there. We also have other ones like the psychic class follow-up. This one here, many of you know on September 24th, we did a class in Atlanta. And that class was a psychic class. Let me tell you what was disappointing about that class. We had over 70 people there. It was fantastic energy. Everybody had a good time, it seemed. It's all right. Many calls tell me they had a good time. But the class was about not mine, but your psychic abilities, right? Because in that class, we actually tested many of you all psychic abilities, right? Throughout the entire time. Many of you here who are on this line right now were there. What was disappointing is that 99% of the people did not do their follow-up. The follow-up was free. You know what I'm saying? We were collecting that data, again, for a reason. We're here because of you all support, right? So we try to pour it back into you by these things that people say they want. They want to know how their abilities work. They want to know what kind of abilities they even have and so on and so forth. Well, in that class, we have your data, right? And from that, I sent out a few emails saying, hey, when ready, book your consultation so that we can talk about you and what you may should work on to increase your abilities. Okay. Only like 2 people did it out of 70-something plus people. Okay. So we still got the data. We're still here, but remember, we're here because of you, and we do these classes and so on and so forth because these are the concerns you may have. These are, even if it's, of course, certain things we may see coming down the line, we do the classes to help our supporters, of course, navigate through the wildness of the energies that may be coming forth, right? So, yeah, so that's just that. Also, let's see, there are other consultations here as well, research-based consultations, brain mapping and stuff like that, STEM-based consultations, specifically member services, stuff like that. Trainings, ones that are business related, if you have a herbal product company, it's all different types of stuff that we bring forth for you all. Okay, so just FYI about that. All right, so let's see here, you all.
Tony, may I make a comment?
Yes, Anj. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say to anyone who hasn't had a consultation, I really like the consultations. I enjoy the consultations, mainly because they help keep me on track. So I just want to highly encourage the consultation. So that's all I wanted to say, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm reading some of the comments here in the chat, just making sure there's anything else. Oh, okay, Markia. Okay, you said I spoke to one of the twins. Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, I look forward to your next consultation, Markia. So make sure that you do book it on the website. Okay. All right. Andre said, yeah, prayers up to you all, family. I see and hear it a lot in families, schools, communities, etc. Markia, the psychic class was a class we had in Atlanta, and the psychic follow-up were for those participants of that very specific class to be able to show them what they need to work on and so on and so forth based on real data that we collected. Jasmine asked, because she was there at the class, said, can we still do our follow-ups? Most definitely. Just book the appointment on the website. All right. Okay, excellent. Okay, are there any further comments or questions at this time? If not, we will end the podcast. So